Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Erwin, and together with Robert Riss, we are having a look at the World Championship match ongoing right now in Sochi in Russia between, as you probably know, reigning world champion Magnus Carlsen and Vishwanathan. In our two previous videos, we had a look at the match in Chennai and at, of course, Game 1. In this video, we're going to have a look at Game 2. Robbie,
Hi, Erwin. Yeah, very interested to see what's going to happen in Game 2.
Yeah,
this is a real test, yeah, fishy with black.
Right.
And yeah, let's see if Magnus is able to create something out of the opening.
Well, Magnus played e4, which I think is not much of a surprise. e5 is a surprise, right? Or isn't it? I don't know actually. What do you think?
We had seen it in Chennai as well with both colors. They played the Berlin. In our preview, we mentioned that Magnus also may go for the Reti or
this was what I was expecting at least. Yeah, some non.
But okay, I think what he does in the game is worth considering as well. We're getting a kind of Berlin, not the end game, but just a slow middle game where he just tries to get a position and take it from there.
Right. Of course, the famous Berlin end game is starting with these moves. Probably all the viewers out there know it by now because it has been seen in hundreds of top-level games in the past few years, ever since Kramnik used it to defeat Kasparov in their famous match.
And don't worry, it's not getting boring. We will get a more exciting middle game, I think.
Right. And white players have been trying to avoid it a little bit lately, and d3 has been one of the ways to avoid this Berlin endgame and get simply, like you say, a normal middle game position. Bishop c5, castle, d6. Of course, black is completely fine here, but that's in general not really Magnus, something that Magnus worries about, I believe.
No, definitely not. He just wants to get the game, and if it's equal, it's equal. It doesn't mean that it's a draw. And I think basically almost all the moves have been tried here.
Yeah, but still he found the rare one, rook e1, which is
rook e1. Yeah,
usually white prefers something like c3 to slightly embarrass the knight on c6. Yeah, but rook e1, okay, I guess it's a normal move. You are defending e4 in the Spanish. It's a kind of normal move, preparing the advanced d4, and maybe vacating the f1 square for a knight. I mean, it's a flexible move. Nothing too.
Not so much is happening in the opening stage. White decides to take on c6, just creating a kind of imbalance.
Right, he just creates an imbalance, exactly. He just wants to play chess.
So
7, knight c4. I'm going over this a bit quickly because
Sure.
It's not really the essence of the game, I think. I think we already covered the fact that Magnus is just getting a game, and but this is actually a moment. It's quite instructive because immediately taking on b6 would allow black to take towards the center, which is preferable. So he includes a4, and after a5 only now he takes, so that he is forced to play b6.
Actually, we have a symmetrical pawn structure here again. This is kind of interesting. We had an imbalance, but now it's kind of balanced again. But there are
imbalance is the bishop, probably.
Exactly, yeah. There are opposite colored bishops. So if white manages to build up an attack somehow, then he has some advantage. But still, this is not easy to foresee. Actually, it's not clear at all that it's possible.
Right.
But Magnus still has some very interesting ideas in this position, which looks incredibly dull. Actually, already two minor pieces have been traded. And but still, he managed to.
He played incredibly instructive at this point. I was really enjoying. As I mentioned in the previous video, during the first weekend of this World Championship match, I was playing Bundesliga myself. I believe you were too. And there was a big screen up, and I was discussing the games. And at this point, I mean, this maneuver, rook a3. Well,
a pure rook lift.
Yeah, it's not a very typical thing, and it just in a matter of 4 or 5 moves, the game becomes extremely interesting.
Actually, it's a kind of common maneuver in many openings, like the Sicilian or
right.
A lot of, but not in the rule of PES, because usually there's a knight on c3 or a pawn on c3, so the route along the third rank has been blocked. So this is kind of unusual for this type of position, and it's very interesting. White's plan is very simple. He'll move the knight away, preferably to h4, getting the rook to g3, queen to h5, and suddenly all white pieces are joining the attack.
Yeah, we see knight h4, queen h5. So this is all. This is what I wanted to point out. Yeah, that in a matter of just a few moves from a rather dull position, suddenly it gets into rather threatening.
Well, yeah, there are no immediate threats yet, but potentially
it's building up.
Yeah, it's building up. Yeah, we should mention that Black is still doing fine here. The situation in the center has been declared. Opposite color bishop, symmetrical pawn structure. Black should be doing fine, but he has to be incredibly alert here.
So knight f5, and okay, already now Black has to make some serious choices, because okay, as we said, the rook is coming. Then, well, the bishop is already exerting pressure. Bishop h6, g7 is weak, so he has to somehow gather his thoughts how to cope with this attack. And I think that in this part of the game, maybe Fischer didn't play optimal, because he played bishop e6.
Looks like a normal move, but indeed it's not the most accurate move here.
Well, especially because we will see that 2 moves later he's actually exchanging the knight on f5, basically already showing that that it's not. He had a very elegant solution here, in my view. King h8.
King h8 is kind of typical move for this kind of structure.
Getting out of the g file, rook g3, and knight e6.
This is a very nice move. I like very much.
Beautiful on e6. It covers g7. Also has some active potential. E4, d4. It's a beautiful knight, and it's actually very difficult for white to increase the pressure at this point. For example, if you intend to play b3, bishop b2, black will just play c5 and bishop b7 next.
Right. And okay, if we should mention that black could be better here. I mean, if white's attack doesn't work out well for him, then black has the d file.
Yeah, but that's very typical, isn't it? If white is concentrating all his forces on one side of the board, and then the attack isn't working out, then very often he's just collapsing on other sides of the board. And here it could be the same. Imagine the queen's coming off. Black will double on the d file, enter on d1, get his knight to d4, f4. It could easily get very nice for black.
Yeah, this would have been very nice defensive construction from black's point of view. Instead, he played the move bishop to e6, but he found himself in some little trouble, actually.
Knight g6. Well, this is also a very funny moment, because he had this... h4 is extremely natural. Let's point that out first of all. The knight is very well placed on g6, and white's preparing to... I don't know if the queen is best placed on g4, but he's preparing to retreat the queen and then kick the knight away from g6.
And then the pawn on g7 is really vulnerable.
Right. This is clearly
but he had a nice tactical shot here. I mean, which was a very interesting alternative. Very surprising move, bishop to h6.
This is very, very funny.
Actually, I think Magnus had seen this move. He had been looking at it. But, okay, it's getting more complicated.
I think the line is pretty forced, isn't it?
It's a forced line, but it's becoming kind of mess in the end, I think.
I think this is all forced.
Yes.
King f8, queen takes f6. Queen f7.
Take
a third pawn. Obviously, king g8 now runs into rook e3. And, well, that will be probably very difficult to cover. So king e8. Now we give another check. King d7, we give another check. It's a rather surreal line, if you ask me. Queen takes e5, king b8. And we already took 4 pawns. For the moment, it's still
it's a rook. It's a rook against 4 pawns.
But we still have knight d6.
Knight d6, yeah.
You have to give a further exchange, and then we get this position. So at first I thought this is completely winning for white. But okay, it's actually not that clear, I think.
There's still some work to do. I mean, it's not so easy to advance your pawns in front of your own king. Probably it's very good for white still, I believe. But I can imagine if you have an advantage without any risk, why to go for this particular line?
Well, not to mention that it's not exactly an easy line either. So he may just have thought, well, I get a few pawns, I get some tricks, but okay, the king is getting out to b7. It's actually quite safe now. And why to go for such a mess if I can...
This is not Magnus style. This is definitely...
This is not Magnus style. He has this very safe option of going h4, which he did.
And now, okay, black needs to respond. Yeah, there's this threat, as mentioned, that the queen moves away and h5.
Yeah.
And Fishy now decides to take on f5 anyway, which is a little bit an admission of a mistake he made 2 moves ago.
Right. He still had the very interesting option of king h8 here. That has to be mentioned.
Right.
It's a rather...
Oh yeah, crazy line, yeah? Rook takes g6.
Crazy because, of course, during a game you think you probably dismiss this move because of rook takes g6.
And that's the end of the line, but here it starts actually.
Yeah, actually, this crazy idea, queen f7, you have here. And it suddenly turns out that the rook is lost. But that's not the end of it, because... well, it's maybe too much to go through all the variations here, but the most tricky move is rook h6. Actually giving the exchange, queen takes f7, bishop takes 7, bishop takes h6.
Yes, and okay, if White could get a couple of more moves, he will probably play Pac-Man, play bishop g7 and take f6 and e5. Yeah. And he has an exchange and a lot of pawns, looks tremendous for White.
Actually, it does look, after, for example, rook g8, stopping bishop g7, you have rook d1.
And this looks very, very dangerous for black, because White is just about to infiltrate with the rook. If the rook is coming to d6 or d7, the pawns are hanging, there are a lot of mating threats, and black is unable to fight for the d file with playing a move like rook d8, because there is a move bishop to g7.
Indeed, after rook a8, trying to oppose bishop g7, huh?
Yeah,
rook d7, rook takes d8, and that's the end of it.
Winning endgame.
Yeah, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So this would have been interesting. We're not sure, right, about the conclusion. It's just very interesting, I suppose. It's
yeah, it was still it was an interesting option, yeah. Definitely.
Let's see the game. He played bishop takes f5, e takes f5, knight f4.
Yeah, okay, this is very important because the pawn on f5 is a double pawn, but it's a very strong pawn. You don't really want to move your knight back to f8. There's bishop h6, moves like that are coming.
Right. Yeah, f4 is, he has to block the diagonal, right?
He has to block the diagonal.
Yeah.
But then suddenly we get a symmetrical pawn structure again, but White's pieces are just better, more actively placed.
Well, I'm repeating myself, but as I was in this Bundesliga game, watching this game live with a few other grandmasters, nobody came up with the next move, rook c3. I was really in deep admiration of this move.
Yeah, I think many of us, and I'm not considering myself a GM yet.
It will happen, Robbie, one day. Yeah.
Anyway, but I think many of us, we will try to collect the f4 pawn as quickly as possible, because it looks very weak. But that pawn is not running away. It remains a weakness. And what Magnus is doing in this phase is trying to create new targets for his rooks. And rook c3 is a nice move to begin with. You're putting the rook on the c file. The pawn on c6 may become a target as well. And also ideas like rook e6 are in the air.
Yeah, this is also, I mean, c5 was played. It looks very natural to me.
Yeah, just to point out a little move. Instead of c5, never a move like rook d6 would be ideal, but to double rooks. But there's this weakness on.
And that will be a theme that we will see all the time. Yeah, this mating trick. Yeah.
It's because of this diagonal. It's terrible.
After the exchange, it's of course mate.
Yeah, it's a very simple idea, but it's important to bear in mind. So Magnus played the move, Fishy played the move c5.
Yeah, it's important. Actually, this mating threat is so simple, but at the same time, it restricts all of black's pieces.
Exactly,
because
and
the rooks cannot find their way.
Yeah, and therefore White's next move is great as well. It's an amazing move, simple looking, but rook e6 is a great move. And now you see the point of rook c3, that the pawn on b6 has become a weakness as well.
Yeah.
And the pawn structure on the queen side has been fixed. So these weaknesses are terminal.
Right, with the pawn on c6, black may have had options of playing b5 at some point, but here that's just gone.
It's definitely gone. The pawn structure is just in White's favor here.
Right.
And black's next move is probably
Yeah, I didn't see a different move. He played rook b8.
Okay. Yeah, but what I just wanted to say is it's a very sad move to make. It's not the move you want to make. Something
has gone wrong, yeah.
Something has gone wrong, and Fishy really sensed that, of course.
So he played
rook a8. It's a very passive move.
Well, in a way, it's logical. I think he's preparing queen f7, right? To somehow. So he wants to protect b6 so that he's ready to exchange.
Actually, even if Black would have to sacrifice a pawn or something, the rook endgame, and particularly the double rook endgame, would have offered him some drawing chances. So queen f7 is a move you should.
You're saying that perhaps even in this position it was an option, or?
Well, here it's a little bit too much, I suppose, because you take the pawn on b6 right away.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't really look
takes b6, c5 is dropping, then a5 is falling as well.
They're all weak, aren't they? Yeah.
Still, they're all weak pawns. Yeah, you don't have clear compensation here. This is a little bit too much, I think.
But it's a nice illustration of yeah the problems Black is facing in this position. So he played rook b8.
And here,
rook c4. Another small move.
I think this is a wonderful move. Yeah, it's a little bit strange, the rook on the c file. But it's looking at the pawn on f4. But more importantly, it's about to join the e file.
Right.
Rook c4 is coming. The queen is intending to come back, and then these forces are. It's just a wonderful coordination between White's pieces. So I really like this phase of the game. How Magnus
is doing. It's pure class. I have no other I have no other words. It's really
and
fantastic.
Still Black doesn't have useful moves. What did Fishy
played queen d7.
Queen d7, intending to play a move like queen d1 probably.
Right, queen d1. But again, it's very nice. Also showing king h2.
Wonderful move. And now
here, of course, queen d1, and you don't need to be. Yeah. That's
very nasty move.
That's it.
Rook e8 and the queen is hanging on d1.
So that's those little moves that those are making the difference. And you see that small tactics are also very important in such kind of positions to make progress. King h2. King is getting out of the way of check side as well, so the king is well placed on h2. Rook f8. Just note that rook e8. You try to exchange rooks. It's something, but still. Allowing such a big pass pawn on e6 is also not really a picnic. He played rook f8, rook e4, rook b7. Of course, he has to prevent rook e7 somehow. Queen e2. Well, this is really the culmination of the entire strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, and here you see the queen has done its job on h5 before. He has created weaknesses. The queen is coming back, and Black's pieces have been paralyzed, but still, it's not so simple.
Yeah, no, Fishy is definitely defending tough at this point. b5, b3. He remains a calm. No need for necessities. But on the other hand, I did at this point. B takes a4. Yeah, he took back here on a4. I liked this inclusion.
Yeah, from a positional point of view, it's more desirable to trade off rooks and capture with rook on a4.
And then take with the rook. And here you keep with all this weak. Maybe if we could criticize him at some point, mildly of course, maybe it could be here, right?
But we grab the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, we grab it immediately.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because it's probably our only chance. This
our only chance in this game.
Yeah. So let's just go to see what happened. Bishop takes a4, rook b4. Well, because this is maybe a small achievement for Black to manage this. Because one rook off is of course favorable, but f3, g3. We're reaching now actually we're almost there. Rather shocking end, don't you think?
The game ended abruptly here.
Yeah, the game. Vishy played h5, and after queen b7, well, that was just it. g7 is. Yeah, you cannot defend g7, and that's just the game.
It's a very strange mistake, but mistakes don't come out of the blue, and Magnus has been exerting pressure the entire game,
posing. That's a very good point, I think. Blunders don't come just like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's a sum of problems he has been posing, and I think Magnus...
It's maybe nice to point out just that
Queen D2, right?
would have given actually very fair drawing chances, because I don't think that after Queen f3, for example, Queen takes c2, it's so easy to prove a win here. Very often a4 is also falling. Well, I was analyzing this position a bit before, and I was often ending up with 4 against 3 on one wing, 4 pawns against 3, offering winning chances, but of course not that clear. So it's really a big blunder actually. H5.
Big blunder, but credits for Magnus in this game, because
in general, of course, and also in this position, had Anand played Queen d2, of course, the torture would have continued. It's not like he would have made a draw just like that, but it's clear that under pressure, such mistakes are made, like h5. So what does this mean for the match?
I think it's a very painful defeat for Fishy, actually. Yes. It's really felt. And I'm not sure. I think Magnus has been quite impressive in not in the opening stage in general. I mean, in both games. In the first game, he didn't get much out of the Grunfeld. He had to be a little bit careful.
Right.
In the second game, I mean, he just opted for a playable position. Anything spectacular about it.
Right.
But in the middle game, he really shows his class. And
he's just been stronger, hasn't he?
He's just stronger and probably also in better shape than his opponent. Because the move h5 by Fishy is not a blunder of his, which is happening normally of his caliber. So I hope for the match that Fishy is able to bounce back. Also for my prediction, I think.
Yeah, it was an excellent prediction you made.
Yeah, but okay, frankly speaking, I think Magnus is doing really well, and he is satisfied with the start of the match.
Yeah, I think he can only be very happy. I mean, he had great winning chances in the first game with Black, and well, this was just he's in top shape, I think. So, well, like you said, let's just hope that we will get to see some exciting games at least in the next 10 games. And let's hope it will be 10 games, right?
I hope for 12 actually.
In any case, for everyone out there who has been watching this video, thank you very much. And we'll be back when Game 3 has been finished. So thank you a lot for watching. Robbie, thanks for being with us again.
Thanks, and see you in Game 3.
Yeah, thank you.